champ.
The champ.
I have a question for you.
Yeah? Already?
If we were to have Bill Champlin and Tamara Champlin, are we hosting the co-champs?
Co-champs.
Co-champs.
Yes. Like Michigan and Nebraska.
What?
Weren't they co-champs?
No.
No?
Yeah, you've got your facts and history wrong.
Oh.
So we're going to get into a little history real quick.
Okay.
But before we do, did you see that we have a YouTube channel now?
We do. We have a few videos up there. Growing. An ever-growing library.
So the idea is we are going to post the uncut, unedited video interviews that we do with our guests.
Yeah, and you even get to see a little behind the scenes because sometimes when we talk about, we're going to edit that out,
Right, exactly.
We do that for the podcast, but it doesn't get edited out for
That's
the
right. So
YouTube.
They're probably a little bit longer too, extended cut. So if you really want to see the full what do I call it? The
unadulterated, something.
Whatever. It's raw.
It's very
So check us out. We will link to that in all of the show notes, but you can find our YouTube channel by searching for the Yacht Rock Podcast out of the main.
Right.
On YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if you got your history right.
Okay.
So what were you doing in February?
Which day?
The day we went down to Dayton.
That was a good day.
Yes.
That was a good day. We went down to Dayton for the inaugural We Will Yacht You concert in Dayton, Ohio, featuring the 80s sort of tribute band Stranger.
Yep.
With a couple of special guests. We had Frankie Previtt was there, and we had him on the show.
Yep.
Frankie Previtt from Frankie and the Knockouts, as well as the writer of a couple of hits from the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. And then also was Bill Champlin and Tamara Champlin, and they were excellent.
Oh, yeah, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Well, we were lucky enough to get invited down to the concert, which would have been a thrill just to be able to be in the room and watch the show.
Yeah.
But we got an opportunity to actually talk to Bill and Tamara.
Yeah, at their hotel.
Yep.
Very impromptu.
Very impromptu.
It's like we got there, and it's like, well, let's see if we can find a room. And the concierge there got us a little room and a table, and we opened up the laptop, and what was intended to be an interview turned into more of a kind of a just a shoot the breeze session.
Yeah,
really.
chit chat. Yep. We weren't sure exactly when we were rolling tape or when we were beginning, but
right.
And then we got to go to sound check, which we'll talk about a little bit at the end of this episode. So, as you mentioned, we found an empty room. We set up a mic, hit record, and what we're going to do today is just talk through some of the clips from that chat. Right?
Exactly.
We didn't have the video cameras rolling, so this will not be on YouTube.
Right.
But this will be a two-part episode because we kind of ran into the sound check a little bit.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. But we started familiar territory, did we not?
Yeah, we did. I had a couple of questions written out, and the interview, like I said, went sort of off the map after that. But this is how it started.
I guess the first question I had for you is, as I was looking through some of your catalog and things, we'd always heard the story about how Turn Your Love Around was written, and it's a bizarre story. But I saw you as a co-writer on there, and I did not know that. I thought it was purely Jay and Lukather that wrote that. But what was your
that's
role
all
on
I'll
that?
ever talk about. But I wrote the lyrics.
You did the lyrics on
The
that
song and the melody. Actually, they had the melodies pretty much, except I wrote the melodies for the bridge, and I did all the lyrics on the record and did all the background vocals for George's version of it. And the three of us actually wrote the song. So that was my second Grammy, and it was the second Grammy in 2 years. And I figured, hey, I'm going to get one every 2 years.
Right.
I was wrong.
So I think it's funny when he said that he thought he was going to get a Grammy every 2 years. You got two in 2 years. I mean, they're solid too, though. But
all I was wondering is if we're going to get the explicit tag put on the podcast right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that was cool. So like you said, the interview went off the map, but I did have my first question teed up.
You did,
because I think I read something somewhere where, or maybe you were telling me on the way down that Bill and Tamara either wrote or spoke somewhere about the difference between being the lead singer and a backup singer. And I wanted to ask them how that sort of technique changed, if it changed. And this is what they said. Well, and you both sing. So we're here with Tamara and Bill. You both sing backups. You both sing lead. Yeah. And I'm wondering, I'm not a vocalist, but I marvel at what you guys do. Can you talk about how your technique might change if you are in the background as opposed to, the cover on the record? Is there a change in technique? Either one of you could take that first.
We both have such unique voices. that we wonder about blending and how you approach that?
I always found backgrounds to be, you got to do backgrounds and do it well. You got to learn how to think and sing at the same time. Because here comes this and here comes that. You got to know exactly where things go, because you're going to end up doubling it. You got to blend with the other people. All of those things are in mind while you're singing. When you're singing a lead, really all you got to think about is, what is the song? What does it say? Let's try to bring it across. So they're two different approaches to singing.
Different mentality.
And and for a while there, everything I was doing, everything was sounding like backgrounds, and my leads started to sound like backgrounds. And Tamara finally said, "Why don't you just sing a lead vocal and then do the backgrounds, but get the lead to where it feels like something." And I went, "Oh, you're right."
So you were stacking
Because you
all the
lock
backgrounds?
yourself, if you start it with the backgrounds, because Bill he can arrange everything to incredibly vocally, because that's what he's really known for in a lot of ways and in some circles. But if you lock yourself into that, then your lead is limiting yourself. Yeah. If you sing your lead and say what you want to say, and get the feel of the song.
Touch people in a different way.
People got to hear your lyrics and feel what you're singing.
The backgrounds are pretty much part of the band. Okay. And the lead's pretty much part of the story. It's supposed to be,
Interesting.
Before we actually were officially on air, you told us a quick story about a turning point in your singing career where you got a brand new influence and started singing a little differently. And the name you brought up surprised me. So,
well, I was kind of started off as a sort of a pop. I wanted to be just a pop singer, which was whatever was going on. We're talking about mid '60s. Mm-hmm. And early 60s, actually, and Rob Moitosa is a gentleman that I work with a lot. He turned me on to James Brown, the James Brown Band. I love James Brown, but boy, did I dig his band. Those guys were ridiculous, just insane. So I fell in love with that, and I just kind of became a lot more aware of R&B. It was a radio station in town, and I remember where I was the first time I heard Lou Rawls on the station. I just went, and this is before You'll Never Find. This is long before that.
Okay.
This is 23 albums before that, when he did Tobacco Road and the first two albums. One was Black and Blue, and the other was Tobacco Road album. Tobacco Road was a big hit for him. It's a country tune, and a young producer put them together with a really great arranger, and they did the version of Tobacco Road that he did. And Lou's phrasing was so in the back. They just kind of held back, really back phrased almost everything.
Is in behind the beat?
Yeah, not behind it, but just, if the beat's perfect at 50, he sang everything at 45 or 49, 96. Just right back here. D'Angelo is known for back phrasing. Mm-hmm. A lot of people went, "Hey, D'Angelo's the first guy that ever did that." And I said, that's wrong. Lou Rawls did that, And then later on, we kind of became friends. But I've just listened to those first two albums of his. I don't know whether you know it. Remember Bring It On Home by Sam Cooke?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the guy singing with him is Lou Rawls.
Really?
Yeah, it's really a duet. Yeah.
I gotta listen for that again.
That was Lou, yeah.
I did not.
Because they sang in a gospel group, Pilgrim Travelers. And I think they sang in two different gospel groups together, so they knew each other from the get. So, that was kind of Lou's getting into secular music as opposed to gospel. And he tore it up,
It's funny because I can hear that so much in your singing at times, the gospel, the blues, the R&B, but then you go and kind of jumping forward a little in the timeline, the CWF stuff, and it's much more of a rock, AOR
it's either
sort
rock
of area.
Rock or kind of West Coasty.
So my most interesting takeaway from that was that when he said his biggest influence was the early 60s era Lou Rawls, and specifically he mentioned Tobacco Road.
Yeah.
And Lou's, when you mention back phrasing, he kind of means that he sings a little bit behind the beat. We talk about being ahead of the beat, on the beat, behind the beat. And Lou would sing behind the beat a little bit and kind of drag. And Bill says something, somewhere along the line in one of these clips, he says, "It's just sexier back there." I love that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And interesting to get Tamara's take, too, on some of this stuff as well. The serendipity, though, of the timing of this interview, because we had already booked Peter Freestedt.
Yeah.
And so if you heard that episode a few weeks ago, we spoke with Peter, and then we learned the story of Peter having is cojones a Swedish word?
It is not. but
No, but
he had them though.
he had them to take a chance, and we heard it from Peter's standpoint,
Right.
And now we got to hear the
We
story.
had to verify the story,
Yeah.
right? So we went straight to the source.
and here's how that turned out from Bill's perspective.
Yeah, he called me up and he says, "Hey, could you write a song with us?" And for some reason, he had those balls to just call me out of nowhere and ask me to do it. And I went, "Sure, here's my house, come over." So we brought it over, and he brought I think at this point it was a CD, just with a rough melody and a rough idea. And I said, "Yeah, I'll write it." So I wrote it. He says, "Well, we'll cut it on Wednesday." And so I went to the studio, and I figured that they'd already had the track, and I'd go in and overdub over the track, like every other session that I did in those days. I walk in, and there's pretty much the Yellow Jackets
Wow.
playing on it,
Yeah.
Well, dig this. So we sang it all live, we just all went live. And actually, Peter got Mark Richmond to play rhythm guitar on the session. So anyway, and then so we did that, and he was one of my, Russ Ferrante is one of my favorite piano players ever. There's a guy who sits on the back end of the group. Him and Joe Sample were both back here. It's sexier. Just you sit back there, it's just sexier somehow. And then at some point he said, "Hey, we got this other song we're doing, this little funky sort of groove thing that we're gonna do." And I was in there. He says, "You want to sing it?" I says, "Is it written?" He says, "No. You want to write it and sing it?" I was pretty much writing it on the vocal date, on the date, singing with the band. So by the time they got to take 3, I got the third verse done. And I went, okay, here it is. I mean, it's not exactly, Bridge Over Troubled Waters or Amazing Grace or anything. Somebody said, what are the 3 best songs ever written? There's Amazing Grace, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and the song I wrote this morning.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course.
Right.
First he says, "You want to sing it?" Then he says, "You want to write it?"
Right.
That's great stuff.
Make Bill do all the work.
Yeah.
Switching gears. Mm-hmm. I had an opportunity to ask a living legend which version of one of his songs
Right.
is the best.
Yeah.
Right.
We'd already talked to Jay about this. We knew what Jay Graydon thought.
Yep, exactly. I had my own opinion, but who better to ask than Bill Champlin, who's been on how many versions now?
Oosh, 4 or 5.
Well, put a pin in that because I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
But anyways, here's how that question kind of got answered and expounded upon.
Well, speaking of another song that you wrote in another Grammy that you won, I have to ask you, which is the best version of After the Love Has Gone?
The Graydon version on Airplay for the Planet.
Really?
It's really great. Foster played a little bit different piano part. It's not quite as big and giant with the big strings, and I mean, the wire choir guitar section in the middle of it is through the roof.
Yeah.
Jay does that better than anybody.
Interesting.
He was actually beta testing the new ADAT machines. So he had 3 of them in sync, right? So when you link up the 3 ADAT machines, you start hearing it play, and then when the second one comes in, the music goes any links
As it gets up to speed.
So we're talking about After the Love Is Gone, which is in 5 different keys on the chorus alone.
Yeah.
And having this machine go right before I go, I said, where the hell are you? Finally, I said, Jay, why don't you just lie to Marcus Ryle, who invented the ADAT. Just lie to him, tell him you did it on there. Let's fly this over to the 2 beautiful MCI 24 track. Let's go to the 24. It took 3 days to sing the vocal on that. The vocal in the background on that. Because of and he said,
So you never ended up down.
No, man, I got to do it Marcus's way. I said, well, then give me way more.
Yeah, run out.
Give me a little more ramp so that I can get some kind of idea of pitch, because it's like, it's a whole song in portamento.
Yeah.
You know what we just learned, at least I just learned, is that the Earth, Wind, and Fire version, the chorus, what Philip is singing is it sounds like the melody to me, but it's actually the harmonies.
Yeah, it's actually Maurice.
Oh, that's Maurice singing that part.
Yeah.
So
Maurice's falsetto was beautiful.
and
then later on, you can hear when Philip comes in, it's Phil Bailey. He's just one of the best at a certain kind of thing. But Maurice kind of, I think, he just produced a really good record.
Yeah. Did it ever bother you? Because it sounded like it bothered Jay Graydon a little bit, but that vocal was slightly altered. Every other version has the melody singing in the chorus.
As you did with
right?
Airplay.
Yeah, well, it's, Maurice, what do you tell Maurice what to do? he got it. I think, and David was, it was the last song we'd written for my first album. Mm-hmm. And I'd cut a couple of demos on it, and then, I always had the wrong drummer, or something was always wrong. Maybe I wasn't singing it great on the original version. And, but Foster was working as a piano player for Earth, Wind & Fire. I think he was playing on September or something like that, or one of the other tunes on I Am. And the tape was rolling back. Remember those days?
Yes, I do.
We got some time.
I am old enough to remember.
So David started playing.
At that time with David, he was on such a roll. It didn't matter. Could have been perfect for you. However, he could see the next step for him, and that song especially, would be to give it to Maurice and go with, spread it. It's like Paul McCartney would love
Maurice,
everybody doing their songs.
Yeah, right. Maurice basically was in that kind of place. He says, if Bill will agree to not release it, not put it on his record, we'll put it on ours.
And this was supposed to be on single or on?
It was going to be on single.
On single. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was
one away. And then Maurice said, I'd like 2 more songs. Also, if you could, same deal. If Bill will choose to not release them. And I went, why not just give him the whole fucking album?
Yeah.
Then I got no record.
Right.
And David, at one point, David said, you could do this. We can rewrite. We can just take a day and replace those 2. But there were 2 songs I really liked a lot. One was, I think one was. Maybe Love Is Forever, and the other one was Fly With Me, which we kind of needed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So how much pushback? I'm sorry. How much pushback was there from you to?
I just said, well, let's just do After the Love Is Gone. Leave it at that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You then have to ask, would you gotten a Grammy?
And then CBS was like, oh, this is just a black boogie band. We don't release singles. And David happened to be in New York City. He was back there producing Hall & Oates' record, Along the Red Ledge. And their session started at 1. And David spent the mornings going over to the Black Rock and just banging on doors. You got to release this as a single. It's going to be a good single. This is a single. This is going to fly. These guys need this song. You guys need this song. And I think they released it as a single just to get Foster out of their face. One of the first times Foster actually treated that song the way Diane Warren treats every song she writes.
They all love the phrase wire choir, right? Those harmonized lead guitars got to be known as the wire choir, because I was talking to Peter Freestead again just the other day, and everything's wire choir this, wire choir that. Guitarists love that.
I've been saying it nonstop since we went on a date myself. So
it was funny when he said Maurice White wanted 2 more songs. And he's like, you give him the whole album.
There is some controversy, though, because when we talked to Jay Graydon, didn't he say that the lead there, because we talk about how the harmony is actually the melody or vice versa, but didn't Jay tell us something different? He said it was Maurice singing.
Oh, that's right. We thought that it was Philip Bailey singing the high part, and he said, no, that's actually Maurice in the falsetto.
Right. And then Bill said it was Philip in his head voice.
In his head voice, yeah.
So, the mystery continues. Who else did we ask? We could get David Foster on the show and settle this.
Yes. And going back to the idea that Maurice wanted 2 more songs, kind of connects me to the one of the earlier clips where Bill thought he might be getting a Grammy every 2 years. Maybe if he gave a couple of songs to Earth, Wind & Fire, he might have another Grammy.
Yeah,
you never know.
Exactly.
Never know.
Who knows? He may even gotten credit for it from.
Yes.
Welcome to part 2 of our interview with the co-champs.
Part 2, the co-champs.
Yes, Bill and Tamara. If you missed last week's episode, check that one out first. It is somewhat chronological, and it goes back to a chance encounter we had with Bill and Tamara down in Dayton several weeks ago.
We were there for the We Will Yacht You show, the inaugural launch of that ship.
Part 1 I thought was chock full of laughs and inside little baseball.
There were a lot of laughs that didn't make it, too.
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
My gosh.
But we avoided, for the most part, the Chicago era stuff.
Yeah, we asked him ahead of time. We wanted to know. We didn't want to kind of step in it, so we asked him ahead of time, do you want us to avoid talking about Chicago? And he's like, well, we don't need to avoid it entirely, but it's not really, he said, that's a small part of what makes me who I am.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should hop right into, without further ado, part 2 of our talk with Bill and Tamara.
Yeah, the pressing question was that he was working on the Runaway album, and the song Sarah was moving up the charts. It was in the top 10. It was at the same time that Hard to Say I'm Sorry was also in the top 10. So he was out there as a solo artist, yet he had made the transition to joining Chicago. And how did the timeline of all that work out? And what were the sort of the wrinkles of all that? Having both of that going on, was the record label in support, blah, blah, blah. I just needed to hear from him how that whole thing happened.
But I wanted to go into the Wayback Machine one more time. Ask
Sure,
a quick
man.
question.
Let's go to the Wayback. Yes.
Exactly. Your Runaway album.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about the timing of that because right on the David Foster producing most of that. I know Kenny Loggins also produced some.
Co-produced one.
Co-produced one of the songs, Taking It On Uptown. Is that correct? Okay. But mostly it was a Foster production, and then at the same time you're making the transition towards Chicago after that.
I didn't go with Chicago until Runaway was done. That's when I got the call for Chicago.
Okay.
Right, and I had done. Foster was Danny Serafin had just really weird because he called a friend of mine, Angelo, a singer, who for like 3 or 4 years earlier had worked on a record of his with Mike Stewart producing. Right, Mike did the Piano Man album and the first 2 Billy Joel albums, and so I did the. I said, and he came up north, up to San Francisco, or actually to Berkeley at Fantasy Records, and I did a record with Angelo there, and great voice, beautiful voice. But Angelo is the ex-husband of Danny's new wife.
Okay.
Danny
At the
Serafin,
time.
At the time. Just a few wives back for Danny, but and Sweetie Pie, wonderful. And he called me. I was right in the middle of doing the Rittenhour album, the Rip, and Is It Use Another tune I co-wrote. So
I didn't know that one.
one of those.
I did not know that.
And I did all backgrounds on
Okay.
that one too.
Did you know that?
Nope.
I did not know that either.
So, man, how about Eric Tagg?
Oh,
What a sweet set of pipes. Good guy. Too.
yeah.
Texas, I think he lives in Dallas.
Dallas.
Pretty sure, yeah.
But
now where was I? He called me at about 9 in the morning, and I'd just come home from working late at about 4. So I was like, hello. I sounded like Barry White. Yeah, baby.
Or the Rouse.
I called Rich Page one time, real early in the morning. Hello.
Really?
I said,
Wow.
Oh, is this Barry White or Richard Page? It's Richard Page before coffee. And I said, Angelo, he said, I don't have any money. It's just, it would be a freezy. And I said, normally I'd be there in a minute, but I got a really bad cold. I lied my ass off. And he says, Pete said the same thing. He said he had a cold, but he's going to make it anyway. Pete, who's Pete? He said, Peter Cetera. I said, well, I think I can get over my cold pretty quick. Where are you cut? So we went there, and Danny was, the first time I met Danny. And I think the engineer was John Stronach. Pretty good, pretty well-known engineer. And so Peter and I were kind of working up some background parts for this piece. We went out and started singing it. When you're in the booth, it's got it. And then you go out and bang it, hit it hard. And just barely whispering it.
is this the first time you're meeting Peter?
Huh? Yeah, first time I met.
And you start collaborating right away.
Oh yeah, instantly doing background.
Oh my
on this
gosh.
thing. It's Dave, basically. And so we go out and we let it fly on the mic, and I look in there, and Danny and John are just going, "What a fucking blend! It's ridiculous."
Chins on the floor.
The chins were on the floor, like ah. So we walked in, and they were both like, "Oh man, that's amazing!" We don't even need to double it. Just maybe double the third part on the top, and we're there. Knock it off with 2 tracks. And so then Danny called me and said, "We're interested in doing something." Donnie Dacus isn't quite working out.
Right.
I said, "Well, look, I got the call right after Terry passed away."
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah, I mean the next day. The management, because I knew the management, Irving Azoff and Howard Kaufman.
Yeah.
So Howard called me, and he says, we're thinking about maybe putting you in place of Terry Kapp. I didn't ask any more than, that's that guitar chair. And I said, man, I play guitar, but I ain't that good. I think I am when I'm playing, but I'm not.
Right, yeah, when you listen back, you're not.
I'm smart enough to know I got one solo, count it,
right.
one.
Yep.
And Kath was just an amazing guitar player. I said, man, I ain't the guy. So I gave him Carmen Grillo's number, and Carmen actually had it right up to where Donnie walked in, and then Donnie walked in knowing every Chicago song ever recorded, backwards and forwards. So that pretty much got.
But then there was the vocal aspect of it.
And he sang too. Well, Carmen's as good a singer as anybody I know. Carmen Grillo's a monster singer. He's just great. He played rhythm guitar with Tower Power for like 10 years maybe. Yeah, he plays with the Sons, and I played with him. He was best man at our wedding. This is how far back.
We used to be on the road with Rita Coolidge together.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
He just didn't feel like he was the guitar player they needed. And
So I passed on the gig, and then later on they found out that they had a ringer, a sideman playing guitar. But what they needed was a voice.
Right.
And that came up after Danny had listened to me and Peter singing together.
Okay.
Well, I got to make this happen.
Yeah.
So he kind of made it happen. It was right on the heels. I was just done with the Runaway album.
Yeah.
Just mixed, and I don't think it was even mastered yet. And they gave me this call, and I went, well, what do you see me doing? He said, well, some guitar, good little bit of keyboard, organ maybe be good, mostly singing. We hear you singing Terry stuff. I said, what songs would that be? He said, well, Make Me Smile. I said, that's cool. I like that. He said, Color My World. I said, I got to get back to you. I'm not a real fan. And I finally went, fuck, I'll get through it somehow. And so I called him. I said, yeah, we're in. He said, well, we got to make sure that we run it by the guys. It was great because we had a meeting. They were cutting 16 basically.
Yep.
And I had a meeting up there, and Cetera was there, Jimmy was there, I think Walt was there, Lee I think might have been there, but they were saying, well, I remember it was one point where Jim Pankow said, well, you got to remember, man, this isn't even really a band; it's a family. We're a family. And I said, look, I got a family. And I just came out of a band of, for 13 years. So the minute we started calling ourselves a family is the minute we were in trouble. I said, if I do this, it's going to be a musical project. And Cetera got up and said, right on, you got the gig.
Well, was there a sense that either during or even later as you look back, that coming right on the heels of Runaway either overshadowed it or did it elevate it?
No, overshadowed.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Runaway was on Elektra, which was on Warner's, and Chicago was basically on Warner. So Warner's kind of went, shut this one down.
Sarah was getting airplay.
Yeah.
And
we went out. Hard to Say I'm Sorry was the number one record on AC. We were in Florida. We went into a radio station to hype ourselves for a gig, and the program director said, "Bill, come here." He said, I saw your Elektra guy this morning. Sarah's number 10 on the charts. After Hard to Say I'm Sorry, or Sorry to Say I'm Hard, is actually number one.
Oh.
He said, but I talked to the Elektra guy who came in pushing some other records or something, and I told him that he's got a number 10 record on the charts. He said, really, by who? He said, Bill Champlin. I said, who the fuck is that? Because when Runaway was released, this came down 2 or 3 days before Danny called me to see if I would be in the band. I realized that the guy who signed me at Elektra was Joe Smith. He was leaving.
Oh, so it
was another great war story of losing.
Okay.
Same thing happened with Welcome to the Dance with the Sons. 2 days before our release, Clive Davis was sacked and thrown out of CBS. Clive signed us.
Yeah. So there you are.
So my whole
But wouldn't
team.
that have been a real opportunity for Warner Brothers to go, we got number one, and the new member of Chicago's got number in the top 10 also. And for them to not put that together.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of the word of mouth did make that record go. But had Warner Brothers really embraced it, they would have made even more of that. They could have made so much more of that.
In Europe,
Yes.
I found this out like 5 years later from Jack Forchette. In Europe, there was a big retailer in Germany that got in touch with Elektra and said, I want you to send me 200,000 Bill Champlin Runaway albums. And they wouldn't send it to him.
Oh, really?
So they spiked it.
Well, that album is really highly thought of now within the yacht rock niche circles.
Well, the yacht rock or it's one of the desert island records of what I'd like to call West Coast music.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
And West Coast music / yacht rock is the same shit. Basically, it's basically pop with a little bit of R&B and a little bit of education. Boom.
Lot there. It's a couple amazing stories.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
when he talks about the time when he meets Peter Cetera, I feel like that's one of the seminal moments in like all of rock and roll history because of that. It was a perfect blend for a while there. Those two voices.
It's one of those cases where I almost compare it, I think, to like Styx or something, where you have these voices that by themselves sound so entirely different that on paper you can't see how they match, but all of a sudden they sing together, and it's almost like the harmonics of one voice fill in the gaps of the other or whatever. When the two are together, it's just magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then we segue into one of my newfound favorites is that later Chicago tune, "Look Away," which I kind of forgotten that I had forgotten.
Yeah.
And I think I included the CWF version in our lightning round. So, anyways, we get into that a little bit.
Yep, and that's the Diane Warren song that they were talking about earlier.
So I just literally learned the other day that is "Look Away" the band's best-selling song, as far as you know.
It's probably the most played.
It was most played in
Most played
1989.
Of 1989. Now, I think between you and me, I'd say long before I was in the band, "If You Leave Me Now" was a giant hit worldwide. And the next one they had that was a giant hit worldwide was "Look Away." But in Europe, "I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love" was actually bigger than "Look Away."
Really?
Yeah.
My real question is there a Bill Champlin or a Tamara Champlin favorite Chicago song?
Oh, "Hard Habit to Break," obviously.
Okay.
I mean, Foster's arrangement on that is stellar. And I talked to him about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, right before the pandemic came.
Okay.
He had a show, and I was like, fuck, this is great. It was really cool. John Robinson on drums, had a bass player, I don't know who it was. Utility
Nathan.
keyboard players through the roof.
Wasn't Nathan?
And
No,
like
Nathan.
four singers, and David on piano.
Oh, man.
Scary good. One of the singers, a girl named, one of them is his wife, Catherine McPhee.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She was
Great.
incredible.
Yep.
Shalala. Shalala. And she signed to Quincy Jones, and she was incredible.
She was the best,
She sang
best
all
singer
the
I've ever
Whitney
heard.
Houston.
I was sitting there next to Jay.
Everybody
And I
was
said, this is
that.
the best singer I've ever heard. And I went backstage with David, and I said, man, she's bad to the bone. He says, wait till you hear her play piano. She plays fucking circles around me.
Really?
She's just the most amazing musician. And she's kind of dying on the vine with Quincy's.
Beautiful girl, too. And the other singer was Pia Toscano.
I don't know that name.
Beautiful girl. She a beautiful singer. And she sang like the Celine Dion stuff and Barbara Streisand. Some of them. I don't know who sang what, but.
And then they had a guy that was doing all the.
Bocelli.
Yeah, the Bocelli stuff. Good operatic kind
Yeah.
of singer. So it was a really great show. And David was, getting up and talking to the audience. It's almost like stand-up comedy. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a kick in the
Yeah,
ass.
We were so moved by
in-
his documentary that it showed a side of him I had no idea. I was surprised not to see you in it, but it was.
Well,
Yeah,
he
he
showed an interesting
didn't. I mean,
side.
the
It was cool.
engineer Umberto Gatica was really pissed
mad.
that he wasn't mentioned. He was in everything.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what was weird is when he had all kinds of slides from the early days, and almost every picture was with me and Jay, and the shots, And so David says, "Well, I'm a little nervous because the co-writers on After the Lovers sitting out in the audience, and I hadn't seen David in 20 years."
Wow.
And the last time I had talked with him, we were playing in Vancouver, and this guy backstage said, "Hey, Bill, here." Hands me a phone. I said, "Hello, who's this?" It's Foster. He says, "Champlin." Who? Dude, come on, Foster. Give me a break. He says, "Oh, yeah." And then he said, "I'm really pissed at you." I said, "What the fuck did I do?" You mean for the time I keyed your car and slashed your tire? What the fuck are you talking about? He said, "Well, the Chicago's just a remaster of my era." And he said, somebody on the liner notes said, "We hate what David Foster did to us." And I said, "And you think that was me? Mm-hmm. Are you fucking out of your mind?" He says, "Yeah, well, it's the company you keep and shit like that." I said, "Right, David." So then he goes on Oprah Winfrey and says, "Well, me and Jay Graydon wrote After the Love Is Gone." And the lyrics came to me in my sleep.
What?
Oh, well.
And finally I just got a hold of Jay, because I talk to Jay regularly. I said, "Next time you see Foster, He's got 14 Grammys. He's going to fucking try to pull out my one or two. And then Graydon and Lukather just say, wow, we wrote it and put it together.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you. I was in there. And, just.
You got to go all Diane Warren and sell yourself, Miller, I guess.
Bill's
I'm good at writing it. I'm good at singing it.
He's the most,
I'm good at producing it.
generous
I ain't good at selling
band
it.
member and the most generous band leader. He passes it around to everybody and builds everybody up like if they're going to do a solo, you think they're God playing, and it's just it's hard to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I did a tour once with a solo band, and almost everyone says this guy passes the ball around like a really good basketball player, And I would say, well, here's a cassette or a CD. Here's what I did. Beat it. Make it better. That's what you did with Imagination's Sake. You heard what it was. You really caught what made it go, and then you put your own stuff on it, and it made it even hipper. It was really cool.
Well, I'm going to save that quote. Glad there was no background noise there.
Hit save while you're here.
That was fun. That was a really neat.
It was fun.
Yeah. Did you sing on that song?
Yeah. So you said your falsetto sometimes goes on vacation. So the blessing of that was I got
it goes on vacation. It goes on strike.
Or on strike.
I get a certain range, but right in the range where I used to live is just gone.
Jeez.
My laugh is the idea of Foster calling him and blaming him for the backlash that Chicago was getting. It's the company you keep, he says.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine getting that call backstage?
Oh, yeah.